Hi, it's Katrina.
Number 9. Hitler and Antarctica. In the winter of 1939, Nazi Germany launched a secret expedition to Queen Maud Land, Antarctica. The intention behind the mission was supposedly to establish a base. But the official word is that they never did, and that nothing ever came from the expedition. Then, between 1943 and 1945, something else happened in the icy continent. The British launched a secret wartime operation codenamed Tamarin. It's not exactly clear what happened, only that the British were involved in something in Antarctica. In July 1945, following the downfall of Nazi Germany, a pair of mysterious U-boats arrived in Argentina. The rumor was that the U-boats briefly stopped at the Nazi base that was built 6 years earlier to pick up secret treasure and Nazi officials. Then, a year later, in 1946, the U.S. Navy sent a large expedition force to Antarctica in what was known as Operation High Jump. The information relating to High Jump, however, was classified. All 3 of these expeditions to Antarctica really happened, but what they were doing down there remains a mystery. Conspiracy theorists say the Nazis really did build a base, and that the British went to destroy it. Then, after the war, the US went to clean up the mess. Unfortunately, though, none of this is possible to verify. In 1958, the US supposedly set off 3 nuclear weapons in the Antarctic region under the guise of Project Argus. The project was supposedly for testing the weapons, but why did they go to Antarctica? Did the US military use nuclear bombs to get rid of evidence that something strange happened at the end of World War II? Sadly, nobody knows for sure, and we may not ever know. And now for number 8. But first, I wanted to give a big shout out to Toddzilla Simon and I Am Bush. Thanks so much for watching and supporting Origins Explained. If you are new here, be sure to subscribe and join the family. Number 8. Aliens in Antarctica. Almost 2 decades after the Roswell incident in New Mexico, international newspapers announced that unidentified flying objects were seen over Antarctica. It happened in July of 1965. Sailors from Naval Detachment Orcadas, which belongs to Argentina, claimed they saw the UFOs, and 3 bases operating on Deception Island in Chile also claimed to see the mysterious flying saucers moving toward Antarctica. So many people saw the objects that 4 official reports were published. The Argentine Navy released 2 statements, and another 2 were released from the Chilean Air Force. The British Antarctic Survey also created a report detailing the strange objects that were seen in the sky. They sent their report to the Minister of Defense, but it was buried, and it was only recently that it was recovered. In the British report, it says brightly colored lights were witnessed on June 7th, June 20th, and July 3rd. These dates are the same ones mentioned in the Chilean and Argentinian reports. Clearly, something happened over Antarctica in the early summer of 1965. But what was it? The reports claimed the light moved erratically in the sky with intense speed. Each sighting lasted about 20 minutes, at which point the mysterious lights blinked out of existence without making any noise. But could these have been aliens? Or was it just a secret experiment going on in Antarctica? Number 7. The City in the Ice. There could be a lost civilization hidden underneath the thick layers of ice in Antarctica. While mainstream scientists claim Antarctica has been covered in ice for over 1 million years, not everybody agrees. There's a theory called crustal displacement, which could prove Antarctica had no ice on it 12,000 years ago. And if true, it's entirely possible that a society lived in Antarctica before it was taken over by ice. The main hypothesis right now is that Atlantis was the name of the great city in Antarctica when it was habitable. Nobody knows who the Atlanteans may have been, though speculation says they were half human and half god, or perhaps half human and half alien. Archaeological expert Graham Hancock is a big supporter of the crustal displacement theory. He's gone on the record to suggest major archaeological exploration of Antarctica, specifically to search for the lost city of Atlantis. Graham Hancock isn't the only expert who thinks Atlantis is buried beneath the ice. Researchers like Colin Wilson, Eric von Daniken, and Peter Colosimo have also supported the theory. But how does the theory work? The idea is that the Earth's crust is able to move on to the upper mantle rapidly, causing a major shift in land masses at the surface. The shift can apparently move continents a whopping 2,000 miles, and those who believe in the theory say that 12,000 years ago, Antarctica was closer to Europe in the Atlantic Ocean, but then the crust shifted and Antarctica slid drifted down to the bottom of the world, and from there, the civilization of Atlantis found itself stranded in unbelievably frigid temperatures. Either they all froze to death in their city, or managed to escape in boats. But it's important to mention that no ruins have ever officially been found. Mainstream scientists are adamant that there are no ancient human-made ruins on the continent. Still though, nobody will know for sure until there are serious excavations. Number 6. The Mystery Pyramid. A mysterious pyramid has shown up in satellite images of Antarctica. The picture has left people baffled, and scientists are now struggling to explain the impossible. The satellite images show the Ellsworth mountain range in the southern portion of Antarctica, and nestled within the mountains is a monumental pyramid covered in snow and ice. It measures roughly a mile in every direction along its base, and its measurements are nearly identical to that of the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt. It has perfectly smooth sides rising to a point at the top, just like any ordinary pyramid. The Antarctic pyramid looks exactly like the one at Giza, only it's pale and icy. While the pictures seem to show an ancient monument, scientists say it's just a coincidence. Dr. Mitch Darcy from the German Research Center for Geosciences said a pyramid in general isn't a very complicated shape. He said it's not even really a special coincidence that there is a pyramid-shaped mountain in Antarctica. Mitch said the pyramid is nothing but a pointy rock, which doesn't make it a human construction. Not everyone agrees with Mitch, though. There are dozens of conspiracy theorists and alien enthusiasts who think the pyramid is part of Atlantis buried beneath the ice. But what do you think? Number 5. Luxury Doomsday Bunkers. There's a conspiracy that says the world's 1% of wealthiest people are preparing for the destruction of the planet. This is partially true, as it's evident by the luxurious way that wealthy people have been getting ready for the apocalypse. According to a recent report from CNN, the mega-rich have been busy building bunkers for the last few years. And one of them, a place called the Oppidum, is being sold as the largest billionaire bunker in the world. It's located beneath the Czech Republic and is like a 5-star resort. It has a swimming pool and an underground garden. It's a luxury accommodation that can house billionaires in the event of an apocalypse scenario. The previously secret facility, initially built by the Soviet Union and Czechoslovakia, is buried beneath a 400-foot mountain. The Soviets used it as a storage facility for munitions during the Cold War, but now it's a bunker for the end of times. It's hardly the only one of its kind, though. The Vivos X-Point bunkers in South Dakota can accommodate about 5,000 people, and each bunker costs somewhere between $25,000 and $200,000. There's another one in Kansas, and there's one in Poland. The list goes on, but those are only the ones that the normal population knows about. The conspiracy is that these super rich have been busy building a doomsday facility in Antarctica, and after the extremely wealthy have finished destroying the world, the rumor is that they will wait out Armageddon in luxurious facilities that were installed secretly in Antarctica. Number 4. The entrance to another world. Scientists know that the Earth isn't hollow like a Kinder Surprise. They know it the same way they know the Earth isn't flat. Science says the interior of the planet is denser than the surface, which means it isn't a hollow cavern. There's also no light from the sun inside the planet, which would make it impossible for life to thrive. But regardless of these so-called facts, the hollow Earth theory persists to this day. The theory started in the 1690s thanks to English astronomer Edmund Halley. He proposed to the Royal Society of London that the inside of the Earth is an entirely different world. He believed the interior of the planet was like a nesting doll with different layers, like a bunch of hollow eggs wrapped around one another. The belief was that the spaces between the shells, or the nesting dolls, were big enough to support life. And he thought these hollow spaces might contain luminous atmospheres. Instead of having a sun, though, which was obviously impossible, there would be a contained atmosphere that gave off its own solar light. It didn't take long before the theory took off across the globe. At the time, people were only just getting used to the idea that the world isn't flat, so this was something fun for them to believe in. Then, in the 1810s, American officer John Cleve Sims proposed that the interior worlds could be accessed through holes at the North Pole and the South Pole. Ever since, there have been countless rumors of explorers finding the secret doorways into the hollow space within the globe. But none of the rumors have ever been substantiated. No explorer has ever never offered irrefutable proof of a lost world within the planet. There are, however, some other weird conspiracy theories surrounding Hollow Earth. Some say the Nazis escaped into the planet, where they still plot their revenge to this day. Others say that Adam and Eve were banished from the Garden of Eden to live within the planet. And another wild theory is that the lost tribes of Israel retreated into the earth, never to be seen again. Conspiracy theorists also believe the governments of the world are purposely hiding the entranceways. They are allegedly doing this by manipulating satellite images and by prohibiting travel to Antarctica and the North Pole. Number 3. The Ice Wall. Is Antarctica just one giant wall of ice at the end of the world? There's a conspiracy theory in which people claim Antarctica is nothing but a massive wall of ice hiding the rest of the world. And on the other side of the ice is supposedly an ancient race of reptilians and other human civilizations who are hiding from us. This conspiracy theory is extremely common with supporters of the flat Earth theory, even though there is no scientific evidence to back it up. But there is a lot of scientific evidence to dismiss the theory. Humans crossed the continent in 1997 on the Borg-Ausland expedition, and satellite images show exactly what Antarctica looks like without any giant wall. Every reputable scientific source says an ice wall is ridiculous. But believers in the theory say there's a platform to a bridge that goes up and over the Great Wall into the lands beyond. And there you can find giants, mighty descendants of gods, and intelligent reptiles. One part of the theory is that all UFO sightings can be explained by the world on the other side of the wall. It isn't aliens from another planet visiting us in spaceships, but advanced visitors from the other side of Antarctica. If this were true, though, you'd have to wonder why they don't destroy the wall and take over our side of the world. The theory has gotten more sophisticated in modern times, and now people are saying there is an invisible dome at the edge of the wall. Apparently, believers in this ice wall theory also believe there's a giant invisible dome that makes it seem like the Earth is round, when in reality, it's flat. This almost sounds like a video game. Number 2. The Ice Ship. In 2020, the image of a massive frozen ship appeared on the internet. The vessel is on its side in the picture, looking like a cruise ship that tipped over and got stuck in the ice. It appears to be about 400 feet long, and the image of the ship was captured from Google Earth. Amazingly, the ship is 100% real. It isn't manipulated in any way, but whether it's a boat or a huge piece of ice that looks like a boat, that's something that nobody can agree on. The discovery of the ice ship took the conspiracy theory community by storm. It's especially exciting because anyone can follow the coordinates to the ship on Google Maps and see it for themselves. It's positioned in Antarctica just beneath New Zealand, in a frozen landscape of glaciers and icebergs about 100 miles from the Antarctic coastline. The shadows being cast by the ship show that it's a good deal above ground. This isn't just a feature of the ice. The shadows prove that it's a solid object lying on a flat ice sheet. It could just be a rock that happens to look like a boat. There's just no way to tell. The ice ship has already been attached to plenty of conspiracy theories. Some think it's part of the lost Nazi base built in Antarctica during World War II. Others say it's a prototype for a super ship designed to save the rich and powerful in the event of a biblical flood. But something went wrong, causing the ship to tip over and freeze solid in Antarctica. This is a bizarre conspiracy because there is no immediate way to disprove it. Unlike disproving the ice wall or the hollow Earth, scientists don't have a scientifically confirmed answer. The hard truth is that it looks like a boat, and for all we know, it could be a boat. There have been plenty of boats lost in Antarctica over the years. For example, the Canadian cruise ship MS Explorer sank in 2007, about 3,000 miles from the ice ship. Number 1. The Crash Landing. A group of alien hunters has discovered what they say is evidence of a UFO crash site in Antarctica. The alien hunters even provided video and photographic proof taken straight from Google Earth. The group was scanning the surface of Antarctica on Google when they came across something extremely strange: a huge object covered in snow at the end of what looks like a skid trail across the ground. It seems like the object fell from a high altitude, skipped across the surface, then slid to a halt. And behind the mystery object's landing trail is an enormous mountain. Scattered on the sides of the mountain are huge pieces of debris that appear recent. The alien hunters say it looks like the object came hurtling out of the sky and hit the mountain. The force of the impact caused the mountain to break apart into huge chunks of rubble. Then the mystery object continued to the ground below. It's a compelling theory, but based on evidence, it's possible that the mountain experienced an avalanche. The avalanche likely caused a huge boulder to roll down the mountain, leaving a typical snowball trail behind it. At least that's what the experts say. Dr. Richard Waller from Keele University said part of a glacier collapsed, causing a big block to tumble onto the flat land below. That explains the debris on the side of the mountain and the mystery object, but the alien hunters aren't buying it. They're positive that this is an example of an alien crash landing. Thanks for watching! Be sure to stay tuned for extra content you might have missed. Number 10. Ancient Rainforest. We think of Antarctica as being a frozen wasteland that's covered in thick ice, but it wasn't always that way. It used to be a continent full of lush vegetation, and for the first time, researchers have found direct evidence of this. An international team of scientists took core samples from a region of seabed on the West Antarctic shelf near the Pine Island Glacier, and they found evidence of a 90-million-year-old fossilized forest with the remains of soil, roots, pollen, and spores. This shows that Antarctica once had what they called an exceptionally warm climate at the time when dinosaurs roamed the Earth, and would have looked very similar to how the forests in New Zealand are today. The samples have been so well preserved beneath the ice that they could even make out the cell structures of plant material. Further studies are now planned to see quite how far this forest stretched across the continent, and it's hoped that with a bit of luck, they may soon find evidence of the animals that once lived there too, with the potential that it could be the new frontier for the discovery of dinosaur fossils. Number 9. Giant void. The ice sheets of Antarctica look like they are solid masses of frozen water, but just like ice cubes in your freezer, there are cavities hidden deep within. While scientists have known this for a long time, they were stunned to find an absolutely enormous giant void that was growing by the day beneath the surface. Currently, it has an area that's the equivalent of 2/3 the size of Manhattan. In certain parts, it is up to 1,000 feet deep. It's located underneath the Thwaites Glacier on the western reach of the continent, and its existence is speeding up the rate at which the ice above it is melting. As a result, it is causing it to grow exponentially. It was once filled with 15 billion tons of ice, but the vast majority of it has melted within the past 5 years. It's only thanks to new satellite imaging techniques that its discovery was made possible, and there are serious concerns about how it'll affect the region. If the entire glacier above it was to melt, then it would release enough water to raise global sea levels by 2 feet. That means everywhere, and that's not even counting the other ice that would fall into its place if it were to disappear. Just be careful when you go to buy your beachfront property. Number 8. Upside-down rivers. The entire world's surface is covered in the scars of erosion, and rivers are responsible for a lot of it. They usually begin as a trickle from somewhere high up and slowly carve their way through the landscape as the water flows down towards the lowest point. In Antarctica, however, there are actually rivers that work in the opposite way. Instead of carving down into the ice, these subglacial water flows actually carve upwards instead. The reason for this is that warm, fresh water is far less dense than the cold, saline water in the ice, so it actually starts to flow upwards into the ice shelves as they float out into the ocean. While this is a perfectly natural process, it's vital to understand it because it has such an impact on the behavior of the ice. It creates weak points through their undersides, which both contribute to the ice melting and increases the chances that the ice will break up in a similar way to if you score a sheet of glass. These bergs then drift further out into the ocean, and the process contributes to the overall breakup of the ice shelf. Number 7. Huge mountain range. If you think of where the most impressive mountain ranges in the world are, then you'll probably picture the Alps, the Rockies, or the Himalayas. But there's another massive mountain range that we hardly know about because it's covered in a thick layer of ice. This enormous mountain range is about 1 mile below the surface. Known as the Gamburtsev Mountains, the 750-mile-long range was first discovered more than 50 years ago by Russian researchers. The entire region is covered in peaks of up to 8,000 feet tall, deep valleys, and liquid water lakes. It's buried beneath the East Antarctic ice sheet, but it's still not entirely clear how it was formed. It definitely isn't a volcanic region, and the current theory is that the continent of Antarctica may in fact have been formed by the collision of 2 giant landmasses. As one of the regions most susceptible to a warming world, the mountain peaks may actually be revealed again within this century. It's therefore important to try and further understand their formation and precisely what lies down there, because it will determine how much the 6 million square miles of ice above the range will affect the rest of the world if it does end up melting. Number 6. Rare stardust. Everything on Earth can arguably be called stardust because it's within the dying gasps of a star that all elements are made. There are, however, some that are much rarer than the rest, and one of the most interesting to scientists is an isotope called iron-60. It's quite abundant in space because it's emitted during the final stages of a star's life, but it's still very rare to find it on Earth. The first time the radioactive substance was discovered outside a lab was in 1999 at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, where it lay in sediment from around 3 million years ago. This would indicate that a star went supernova that was far away enough from Earth to not destroy it, but close enough to cover it in debris. Now, the same team has found traces of iron-60 in Antarctic snow. They proved that it didn't originate from the nuclear tests that were conducted around the world in the 50s and 60s, which raises the question of where it came from. Could this be evidence of a nearby star that exploded far more recently than any other data has shown? Or is there something unusual about the structure of the Antarctic continent? Only further research will reveal the truth, and it could force us to reevaluate what we think we know about our cosmic neighborhood. Number 5. Volcanoes. Volcanoes are some of the most powerful geological formations that occur around the world, but because of the way they develop, they tend to be located in specific regions around tectonic plate boundaries. The most volcanically active region on Earth is known as the Ring of Fire in the Pacific, but recent research has revealed another large cluster of volcanoes beneath the Antarctic ice. Located in a region called the West Antarctic Rift System, radar imagery has found there to be 178 cone-shaped structures hidden beneath the surface, of which 138 have been confirmed to be volcanoes. If more are found, this could become the densest region of volcanoes in the world, but the most important question that needs to be answered is whether any of them are active. An eruption would undoubtedly put extreme strain on the ice sheets above, which are already weakened because of environmental changes. There is a suggestion that the pressure caused by the heavy ice is actually helping to keep the mounds dormant. But if much more of it melts, the region could potentially reawaken, and this could have catastrophic consequences. Number 4. The deepest land on Earth. Antarctica's surface appears like an almost flat tundra or desert, with occasional mountains that reach up in the distance. Of course, this is just because the surface of the ice is subjected to powerful winds, and the actual ground of the continent that lies beneath is just as varied as everywhere else on Earth. New scanning techniques have allowed researchers to study Antarctica's topography in ways that have never been possible before, and it's revealed some unexpected results. Efforts were focused on a valley region called the Denman Trough, where it was possible to calculate the amount of ice that flowed through each year. And it was found that to accommodate the volume that channels through it, it must plunge at least 11,000 feet below sea level. This would make it by far the lowest known region of exposed land in the world, a record that was previously held by the Dead Sea, which is a paltry 1,419 feet deep in comparison. This, however, is just the beginning of research like this, and it's quite possible they'll find an even deeper canyon somewhere else on the continent. Number 3. Ancient Lake. Despite the freezing temperatures and the blanket covering of ice and snow, it's amazing to think that there are some regions of fresh liquid water in Antarctica, despite them being thousands of feet beneath the icy surface. In 2019, researchers announced the results of a study that took samples from one of these subglacial lakes, and the findings were completely unexpected. They had been looking at Lake Mercer, which is beneath a glacier on the West Antarctic ice sheet. Covering an area of around 54 square miles, the team had to drill 3,500 feet through the ice to reach it, and they were able to retrieve a sample of 15 gallons of water. In it, they found 10,000 bacterial cells per milliliter, which is about 1/100th of what would be expected in the deepest parts of the ocean. But considering this lake hasn't seen sunlight or the outside world in thousands of years, it's pretty amazing. They think that the microbes are living off carbon deposits that were left there when photosynthesizing organisms were present, and there's enough evidence of life down there that it's quite possible more complex organisms, like tardigrades, are being supported in the environment too. Not only does this teach us much more about life on our own planet, but it's also invaluable data to try and understand where else in the universe microorganisms may be present. with focus returning to Mars and some of the moons in the outer reaches of our solar system. Number 2. Radioactive rocks. Antarctica is the coldest region on Earth, so it may be a surprise to hear that deep beneath the surface there is evidence of something hot and radioactive, but recent research has found this to be the case. Rather than being in the ice itself, these natural formations are beneath the continental ground that the ice sits upon and is similar to deposits that are found elsewhere on Earth. Quite how much there is and its impact on the ice sheet is unknown, but when scientists model the rate of melting, they don't factor these processes into it because they simply don't know that they're there. By researching and understanding these hidden heat sources more, it'll be possible to know how much of the rate that glaciers are melting are a result of climate change and how much is actually due to completely natural causes, and is in effect something that we can't do much about. Number 1. Mysterious massive object. As one of the most uncharted surface regions of the Earth, countless satellites are continually taking images of the frozen continent, and in 2006, images were beamed back that showed a highly unusual anomaly within the ice of a region called Wilkes Land. Measured as being up to 151 miles across and just over half a mile deep, the Wilkes Land anomaly has been used by some conspiracy theorists as proof of the hollow Earth theory, but its true origin could be even more significant than that. Throughout the Earth's history, there have been at least 5 mass extinction events that have wiped virtually all traces of life from the planet. The most famous one, and the most recent, took place around 66 million years ago at the end of the Cretaceous period, and was what killed the dinosaurs, but it was by no means the most destructive. The Wilkes Land anomaly ties up with what you'd expect to see from a gigantic asteroid strike, more than twice the size of the one thought to have been responsible for the Cretaceous event, and its timing lines up with the most destructive extinction that we know of, the Permian-Triassic event that took place 252 million years ago. This could therefore be the origin point of a catastrophe that killed at least 90% of all species, and by a fluke of it happening in Antarctica, it may have been much better preserved than any other. Thanks for watching! Who knew there was so much going on underneath the ice? Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you soon! Bye!